In this day and age of social media and so many other things that are distracting and grabbing our attention, there are people who are still picking up the physical books and reading. And because they're doing that, we have authors who are still writing. And we are so excited to have the opportunity to feature some of the artists that will be a part of the upcoming Sunshine State Book Festival here in Gainesville at Trinity United Methodist Church. I'm going to be speaking with two of the authors. They're both authors of children's books. So get your pen and your little pad out or a screenshot so that you can get your Christmas list started for
Mhm.
all of the children in your life. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight on Sisters of Wellness. We hope you'll stay with us, like, and share. Welcome to this edition. You know, it's hard to find good help these days. Welcome to this edition of Sisters of Wellness. I'm Pamela Marshall, and I am so excited to have with me this evening some ladies who are authors. They've done some other things in their lives, but they are writing books that will feed into the lives of the next generation. Eileen Hobbs is in Oklahoma, and L.A. Spicher is in Orlando, Florida. These ladies are among the 150 or so authors that are going to be at Trinity United Methodist Church in Gainesville, Florida for the Sunshine State Book Festival that is coming up January 27th, 28th. Mark your calendar. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you for
Thank
having us.
you. Thank you.
Isn't it just wonderful for all of the downside of COVID? This is one of the upsides of it.
Yes.
That we all had to learn this technology, and
Mhm.
I'm getting an opportunity to interview authors from across the country that will be in Gainesville. You know, I'm in Gainesville, you're in Oklahoma, you're in Orlando, and we're all able to chat. Let me just start with you, um, LA. You This is your first book. Congratulations.
Yes, yes, it is. Thank you very much. It's very exciting. It's been quite the journey, that's for sure.
So you didn't start out as a writer,
No, I did
but you
not.
were a writer.
I am a writer
You are you
now.
what you came here as a writer, but you didn't go in that direction initially.
That is true. I did not. It's funny because when I was going to school many years ago, um, I used to have all my professors and teachers would tell me I should be a writer, but I didn't pursue that. I went into accounting, and that's what I've done for the last 35 years. Um, but sometimes things happen in life, and I was blessed to be put on furlough when the pandemic started, and I took up the pen. Um, and here I am.
Excellent. So Eileen, this is your fifth book.
Yes, fifth book in my series of the Heath Cousins adventures.
So this is a whole series for you.
This is a whole series for me. I didn't start out thinking that it would be a series. I kind of started my first book probably 15 years ago. I didn't finish it, but I started it watching my kids and their cousins play outside and use their imagination. And so I started writing, and then I got busy raising kids and working. And then fast forward, I decided to finish it. And once I got the first one done, then others came to mind as other plots and stories came to mind for a series.
Well, I want you ladies just to talk about this. Here, two writers who are gifted writers, but you put it on the back burner. And what do
Mhm.
you say to those who may be writing, who may be watching, who feel like I have a book in me, but I don't know what to do? Could both of you address that, LA?
Sure. I think that you just need to stop and think for a moment and think about what it is that what do you want to say, right? What is your story? And go ahead and take the time to go ahead and put that on paper. And sometimes it takes a while. It could be a several year process. But you learn and grow as you're going through that, and give it all you got, and take that leap and that step of faith, and put yourself out there. And you don't know what will happen if you don't actually take that step, right?
I agree. I think start. The hardest part is starting, and you don't have to go in sequence with your story. You can put it aside, and when you think of something else, then you go and write it in. We're so fortunate we can work on computers and move things around. And so I would say start a lot earlier than I started.
Me too. I agree.
Yeah, to start a lot earlier. What do you think? Answer this. What do you think kept you from starting a lot earlier?
Yeah. You want to go, Eileen, or?
Well, at life.
Life, yes.
Life and working full time and raising kids, and just not having that block of time to sit down and work on it. So the way that I do now.
Yes, I would say the same thing. Your career becomes first, and then I have two children also, and then once you have that family, that becomes first in life, and that's where you put all of your time, right, between your family and your work, and now with the children being grown, young adults, that allowed you a little bit more time for doing something like just for you.
Do you think that you could have, because one of you said to those who are watching and listening, that you hope they start earlier. What advice? How do you carve out that time? How do you encourage and show people a path for being able to start early?
I think that, well, it just depends on your situation, but I wrote a lot after my kids went to bed. I wrote when they're at school. You have to carve out that time for yourself to do that, because as L.A. said, that if you have that story in you, it's not going to go away. It's going to keep banging around inside your head and your heart. And, you just need encouragement too, to keep going, to keep working on it.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little bit at a time.
Absolutely. Having that encouragement, support as you're going through there, that's always helpful. Identifying, who that is, who your tribe might be, right? That gets you through each of those steps and phases.
Exactly.
And along with starting earlier, you could also look at it like it's never too late, right?
That's exactly true. Yeah. Yes, I had a very good support system, and I still do. And it's been mainly family. And once I put out the first book, my family has just been so supportive, and they're my number one fans and cheerleaders. And so I think it is important to have that support system behind you to keep encouraging you.
Absolutely.
So you said, Eileen, that your stories came from watching your children and them playing with their cousins. L.A., where did your story come from?
Well, this is just my first book, and I'm hoping that it'll be a series similar to Eileen, as the future keeps coming. But my storyline is, in this first book, takes you through the life of a brother and sister who are 4 and 6 years old. They're tortoises. And it just kind of goes through, what might happen in the life of a 4 and 6 year old during a year, like going to school for the first day, different holidays, and helping out friends and things like that. And a lot of that really came from my children, and a lot of the different things that they experienced. They were in different art programs when they were really little, and just kind of some of the experiences that they had. So my children were the inspiration, and our actual tortoises, Pickles and Squirt, were the inspiration for the characters.
That's cute. So here we have two moms, and they've written these books, and these children have been the inspiration. And don't you think that probably every mom could write some books? Because
Absolutely.
who was it? Who was it that had the
Definitely.
show?
Especially
Kids,
about their kids.
Yes.
kids say the darndest things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now that they're adults, I say, be careful. You don't say that because you might end up in my book.
What has been the toughest part? Because um, you know, we see people get published and we see the covers and the illustrations. What did you find that was the toughest part for you in getting to the finish line with your books?
I think the toughest thing, and LA will probably agree with me, is marketing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of it is a long process, but it's also very fulfilling and joyful to be working on your book and to see the progress and then to see it come out and you're so excited. And then it's like, oh, now I have to market and I have to be on Facebook. I have to be on Instagram. I have to do this. I have to do that. And, I think you tend to think that maybe it's just going to sell itself when you're first, because you're writing it and you're thinking, oh, this is so great. And, a lot of people are going to buy it. But I think the marketing is the hardest because as authors, sometimes authors are quite introverted. They want to be writing. So to put yourself out there is not easy sometimes.
I would totally agree, Eileen. The marketing part is challenging, and putting yourself out there is definitely a growth opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that as you're going through the process, there were times that I had experienced where you're kind of like doubting, why am I doing this?
Exactly.
Because you're writing and then you throw out the
Right.
page and throw it in the trash and you do it over and over and over again. And you're like, why did I bother doing this? So where did I even come up with this thought? But that support group is great to have because they push you through.
Exactly.
So.
And if you're just joining us, we're talking to two of the authors that will be a part of the Sunshine State Book Festival here in Gainesville, January 27th to 28th at Trinity United Methodist Church, sponsored by Gainesville Writers Alliance. It is come to my attention that the average, the reading level in Gainesville, Florida is around the third grade level. Does that surprise you that across the country, not just in Gainesville, that the reading level for Americans has dropped? And then what role do you see you playing in that, in helping to encourage people to get back to picking up a book and actually reading?
Well, I'll go first. There is a saying that if you don't like to read, you haven't found the right book yet. And I think it doesn't surprise me. My oldest son has always struggled with reading, and we tried and continue to try for years different ways to help him read. And he's a very good audio listener. So he listens to books on tape constantly. He loves to read in that way. So as far as my books, because I have a son who had trouble with that, I'm very much aware of the print size, the illustrations, the cover, and trying to attract kids to find that one book, whether it's mine or something else, that really speaks to them. It could be a comic book. It could be a graphic novel. It could be anything like that. I think that kids just need to find the type of book that they like, or if they have trouble reading, there's so many great books available on audio. And I'm hoping to get mine someday put on audio as well, because it's so important for kids to have access to these different methods in order to read.
Absolutely. Having the different platforms out there is great opportunity for children and adults, right? That could potentially be in that situation. And I would agree that yes, that it does appear that the reading um, level has gone down. And there's so many different factors to that, right? As time keeps going on and technology enhances, and what our children focus in on, and what are they doing, outside of school and things like that. How often are they sitting down and reading, and similar to what you had mentioned, Eileen, taking those things into consideration too when you do that with your book. I tried to do that with the parts of my story. At the end of my chapters, I have like an interaction to kind of do, so that the reader, whether you're mom or dad or an older brother or sister, grandma, grandpa, whoever you are, with your kids or teacher and student, that you have some interaction there with them, and hopefully that sparks that interest with the children.
And so, and speak to the adults, because the only
Yes.
reason that children have an interest in whatever they have an interest in is it gets presented to them,
Yes.
whether it's presented to
Exactly.
them by the adults in their lives,
Exactly.
via parents, teachers, grandparents, other relatives, someone in
Absolutely.
school,
Mm-hmm.
or what they're seeing on social media. So,
Yes.
what do you writers say to the adults in the lives of children, and how we can perhaps shut down some of our social media to open the book, to read to them, to encourage this reading?
Well, I think for me, all of my advertising about my books does go to parents and grandparents, because they're the ones that want to buy books for their kids and for gifts and things like that. So a lot of my social media is targeted toward teachers. I do a lot towards teachers, elementary librarians, and parents and grandparents. So I really try to focus on them so that they can be a part of the reading process with their kids and grandkids and students.
Yeah, that's great. And it's good to stop and think about, when we were also young and when we were all kids. Um, and not everybody might have had that situation, right? But, you know, did you have story time with your family or at school? What was that like? And how did that make you feel, right? To think back, hopefully those are good memories and thoughts. And to be able to share that,
Exactly.
it's great to be able to actually have that one-on-one time yourself, sitting, on the bed with your kids and just enjoying that time together. And it's that you as a parent, learn a lot also when you're doing that with your children.
Yeah, I remember times reading to my son Brennan and thinking that I would get enough books to read him to sleep, and he would have to wake me up. Keep reading, Mom.
I remember reading. Of course, I read to my kids too, even the one, my oldest son, who has the reading difficulties. And I would be reading along and then just start bawling because I hadn't read it, but it had a sad ending. Like, why? Why? Why didn't you tell me it had a sad ending? So I try to have happy endings in my books.
all of your endings are happy?
Well, maybe not exactly happy, but I do remember those that have made an impression on me, and how hard it was to get to the very end, and then the dog dies or something like that.
Oh, yeah. L.A., what about your book? Does it have a happy ending?
Yes, I believe so. Yes, it does. There's difficulties and challenges
Right.
through each of the months that they go through, like children would. But it plays on kind of like how we've been talking about support group, right? In a sense, right? That support, who your tribe is, and your family and friends. Same thing from the children's perspective. So each of the chapters turns out good in the end and has a good lesson. So,
And the title of your book, L.A.
This one is Turtle Tales with Pickles and Squirt. 12 months equal 1 year.
And where did you come up with that name?
Well, since the characters are tortoises, I played around with tortoise tails. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go that route, so I just kept it with turtle, thinking of, children might naturally just think of turtle before tortoise. And Pickles and Squirt, that is the name of our two tortoises. So it's Turtle Tales with Pickles and Squirt. And then hopefully, God willing, each book that I do will have a different subtitle to it. And this is the 12 months equals 1 year, because it takes you through the 12 months of the year in those children's lives or turtles' lives.
You have to have an incredible imagination to come up with something that a turtle is doing.
Well, it has been quite fun. So, and when you say about thinking ahead and what those next books would be and include, I already have all those thoughts, and it's very exciting of where these two little turtles will be going to next.
Oh, nice, nice.
I do think it's important to have certain themes that are kind of directed toward your age group.
Yeah.
So I have the characters in my books talk about forgiveness, for example, and just working together as a family, as cousins who maybe didn't start out liking each other, but then they find they have to work together to get back home and making good choices.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So your series, as you said before, is about your children and their cousins.
Yes.
And which is because of the proximity and where people live today. There's some children who may have cousins, but they haven't had the opportunity to grow up with them and know what that relationship is about.
Right.
How do you? Well, actually, my husband is. His parents were only children, so he said in the first grade he came home and asked his mother, "What's a cousin?"
Oh,
yeah. Well, yeah, I came from a big family, and my immediate family is very non-traditional. Both of my boys are adopted and from different places. One from a different country. And so my idea of family is a little bit different. I think it's not very traditional. And so I think that the idea of family is changing, and that there are all different kinds of families, and that even if you don't have a cousin, you probably have friends that you play with and go on adventures. And so I think that, there are all kinds. There are all kinds of families that are perfectly wonderful and different.
Either of you have your books handy that you could read something from your book?
Yes, I'd love to.
All right, let's let Eileen read a bit from her book, and
here's book one, right there, and just a page or so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So after the cousins go through the Moonstone Cave, they end up in a beautiful garden. They're in a whole new world. And they are very astonished. And so this is after they've entered into the garden, and the characters start talking to each other and are very shocked and surprised. "We can't go back, Addie?" Bodie asked, and Bodie's the youngest, and Addie B's the only girl. Addie patted his bright blonde head. "We'll get back," she said, with more confidence than she felt. What was happening? Was this another dream? "We can't go back, so we might as well go forward," Jack said. And Jack is the oldest, and he's very practical. "Let's find out what that sound is," because all they could hear was tink, tink, tink. They all began to walk forward slowly. As they neared the giant tree, the sound became louder. Finally, when they reached the other side, they saw a woman with long dark hair bent over a stone table. She wore a royal blue dress, the color of jewels, and intertwined in her hair were blue and black feathers and small pink and white blossoms. Across her forehead lay a gold chain with a turquoise-colored stone set in the middle of it. She held a small metal tool. She seemed to be working with colored stones, chipping at them to shape them into specific patterns and designs. The woman looked up and smiled. She didn't seem surprised to see them. Addie noticed that she wasn't young, but her skin was smooth and clear, and her eyes were like black marbles. But it was what was sitting next to her that made all the cousins gasp. It was the biggest white wolf they had ever seen.
Ooh, a white wolf.
A white wolf.
Oh my, oh my.
Wow.
So they end up in a garden, and the woman gives each of them a magical stone that gives them a special gift or power. So Addie B, the girl, has a moonstone ring, and she can read and understand different languages.
Ooh.
Which is the power I have always wanted to have.
Yeah, nice.
That is awesome.
It is. It is. I want to know what happens next.
Absolutely.
As they say, get the book.
Get the book.
And so, ladies, I do want both of you to put in the chat where people can find your book. Everybody will definitely be able to find you at the Sunshine State Book Festival, January 27th and 28th. It really is right around the corner.
Yes,
Believe it or
yes.
not. It doesn't
Yes,
feel
it is.
like it should be, but
No.
it is.
Yes.
So, LA,
Yeah.
would you read some of your book for us?
Sure. I'd be happy to. Okay, so as I had mentioned, this is 12 chapters, and it takes you through the 12 months of the year for the children, the two tortoises. They are brother and sister. And so I'm just going to read an excerpt from the September chapter, and it's the first day of school for Squirt, who has just recently turned 5, so she's going into kindergarten. Our school was a small building with a red brick front and a big playground and yard in the back. I couldn't wait for lunch to check in with Squirt and make sure she was doing okay. All the grades from kindergarten to 5th ate lunch at the same time in the cafeteria. While eating, one of my friends said, "Pickles, isn't that your sister over there? Looks like she's sharing her lunch." Sure enough, Squirt was sharing her lunch with someone who was crying and didn't appear to have a lunch kit with them. Funny thing was, Squirt never even saw me there. Finally, recess came and I could check in on Squirt again. While playing, one of my friends said, "Pickles, isn't that your sister over there? Looks like she is helping someone." Sure enough, Squirt was helping another girl get up off the ground, and they started taking turns pushing each other on the swing set. Funny thing was, Squirt never saw me there. The final school bell rang, which meant it was time to go home, and I could see how Squirt was doing. While waiting outside, one of my friends said, "Pickles, isn't that your sister over there? Looks like she had a great first day of school." Sure enough, Squirt was hugging her teacher and walking out holding another little girl's hand. This time she saw me and ran over shouting, "Pickles, Pickles, what a great day it was. How was your first day of school?" I just laughed, thinking about how worried I was all day about her. I had a great day too, Squirt. On the way home, during dinner, and even as we got ready for bed, Squirt kept telling us stories about her first day of school over and over and over again. I made new friends today. I shared my lunch with this boy who forgot his. We had a good lunch together. At recess, there was a girl sitting by herself. I went over and asked her to swing with me, and she did. We had a lot of fun. I had a hard time with one of my math problems. When I raised my hand and asked my teacher for help, she came over and very nicely showed me an easy way to remember how to do it next time. She was very kind and hugged me at the end of the day. "That's wonderful, honey," Mom said, "but now it's time for bed." You need to get plenty of rest before school starts again tomorrow in the morning. Good night, Squirt. Good night, Pickles. I can't wait for tomorrow. Turtle Talk. Before I say good night and end this tale, I was wondering, what is your favorite thing about school? My favorite thing is science class. Do you remember your first day of kindergarten? Were you scared or maybe excited? Did you have fun? I remembered my first day. I was a little scared myself, but had a lot of fun making new friends. Until next time, good night.
Aww. Such wonderful life lessons.
Can we see the cover?
Oh, yes.
I want to see the cover of your book. Oh, cute.
Yeah,
Oh, I love that.
Pickles and Squirt.
Oh, that's so
Those are
cute.
so nice. Both of these books, these series, the series of books, and then yours. L.A., congratulations on your first book.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, and Eileen, congratulations as you continue to write your series and
Thank you.
inspiring LA on her series.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes. Yes, we have to encourage one another for sure.
We do.
Well, ladies, I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say congratulations to you, Eileen.
No, thank you.
These ladies are going to be a part of, I think it's like 150 authors that are going to be at the Trinity United Methodist Church in Gainesville, Florida for the Sunshine State Book Festival 2023, January 27th and 28th. I'm told one year they had like 3,000 people to come through.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Order some more books.
Wait a minute. Make sure you talk to them. Somebody just told me that. I don't want you looking at me at the end going, are you going to buy these? Well, all of you who are watching, whether you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, I hope that you will take the time to read to some children in your life. They may not be your biological, but they are all our children. And what they get out of this journey until they can start thinking for themselves, we play a huge role in that. And so if you would look for these books, the book by Eileen Hobbs and by L.A. Spicher. And ladies, we'd like to be able to put your contact information in the chat on the YouTube channel, as well as on Facebook and on LinkedIn, so people will know how to find you. I really, really appreciate you all spending time with us this evening.
Thank you very much for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
You are so welcome. We thank you, everybody, for joining us for this edition of Sisters of Wellness. And what I'd like for you to do is take a pause, a few inhales and exhales, and enjoy this moment. I'm Pamela Marshall at the Wellness Radio TV and at the Wellness Radio TV podcast. Remember, there is healing at the well. We'll see you next time. Take care.